So, 2 weeks ago on this YouTube channel, we did make this video talking about Elliotte Friedman's comments on the idea of an Erik Karlsson return to the Ottawa Senators. This was a pretty big deal, and Friedman did mention it throughout various media platforms. In fact, even after this video, Friedman went out there and talked about this Carlson to Ottawa idea even more. He went out there on 32 Thoughts, he wrote about it. In fact, there's an article from the Hockey News that goes out there and pretty much summarizes the comments made from the Sportsnet analyst. Take a look at this. Friedman again ponders the notion of an Erik Karlsson return to Ottawa. This was from March 11th, 2024. Then, if you scroll down into the piece, this is what Friedman goes out there and says. If there's one team you would think would consider getting Erik Karlsson, it would be Ottawa, with Daniel Alfredsson there. He said on the 32 Thoughts podcast, Ottawa, I think, did a lot of groundwork. They had a lot of conversations, not only about, but they made some subtractions, but I also think they want to add people who are going to make them better right away. Ever since I wrote about that possibility, Friedman said, just in my head of Carlsson going back, there's been a lot of feedback to me about people who think it would be a good idea and people who think it wouldn't be a good idea. But if it's not Ottawa, and don't forget, Carlsson has a lot of control here, it's hard to see where it makes sense. I think the Sens are going to be really busy in the next few months here. I think they've had a lot of conversations that will kind of get punted into the summer. Now, this article on the Hockey News straight up says it really does not make any sense for the Ottawa Senators, at least not as the way things stand right now. The Sens already have too many non-physical puck-moving D-men who aren't particularly dynamic in their own zone. But what if they trade a couple of them away for the pieces they need? What if they don't have to give up too much for Erik Karlsson in a trade? What if the Pens retain salary? Then, and only then, a trade to bring Karlsson back to Ottawa begins to make sense. Now, this article is a pretty good one. Stephen Warren does a good job in kind of summarizing whether or not this would really work, and hey, it will be linked in the description if you want to go ahead and read this, but essentially, the meat and potatoes of what we wanted out of this article was the Elliotte Friedman quotes. How he keeps on talking about it. There are people talking to him about it. Erik Karlsson is a 100-point defenseman who, look, he's not on pace for 100 points this year, but he's still doing pretty okay, all things considered. If we go over onto his page here, Erik Karlsson in 23-24 has 44 points in 64 games played. He's on pace for about half the point production he had last year, which is, a pretty steep decline, but when you consider the Pittsburgh Penguins and their inability to score points this season, their inability to score like Erik Karlsson just had the powers of will to be able to do last year, it kind of makes sense. He's still valuable, but still at $10 million AAV against the Penguins cap till 2027 at 33 years old, you really have to go out there and ask whether or not it's really worth it for a team like Ottawa to go out there and consider. Of course, it would make for a great story. Everybody remembers how good Carlsson was in Ottawa. He had 82 points in 82 games played in 2015-16, and it was this season in particular where I think he really started to take over that reputation of being the best gosh darn defenseman in the NHL. And you could say right now, hey, wait a minute, 82 points in 82 games played? That's not a lot. Like, compared to what the defensemen nowadays are scoring, Erik Karlsson had 100 points in 22-23. What does this season have anything to do with it? Well, you gotta remember, back in 2015-16, league scoring was down pretty wildly. Patrick Kane was the only guy to get 100 points. Jamie Benn had 89, Sidney Crosby had 85. Erik Karlsson was top 5 in the league in points that year as a point-per-game player. There were only 5 point-per-game players. This year, there are so many more, and it kind of goes to show the changes that the NHL goes through year in and year out. This season, just at first glance, there are up to 26 players who have a point-per-game rating in 23-24. Back in the time frame of 2015-16, there were only 5. So it's a really big change. Erik Karlsson was the top defenseman in the NHL by far. Brent Burns was there too, but we kind of remember that things didn't really work out when they were playing together. It's kind of funny how the same thing is happening nowadays. But the reason we're making this video is because Erik Karlsson himself went out there and reacted in the Penguins locker room to the comments made by Friedman. He reacted to the idea of him getting sent back to Ottawa, and it was a pretty funny comment. We'll go over onto the score if you want to go out there and read it. This makes a lot more sense for us because we can put it on the screen. I don't want to play the clip for you. It's copyrighted material. But Erik Karlsson is amused by the links to the Ottawa Senators. Yeah, that's Canada for you, he told reporters Thursday, including the Hockey News' Nick Horvat. I played in there for a long time, so I kind of know how that game works. They've got a lot of things to talk about every day because they've got a lot of airtime, but very few things to actually discuss. They like to make up these what-if scenarios, and that's just the way it is. It's not something I really look into or worry too much about. Now, whether or not Carlsson is saying he doesn't really look into the idea of him getting traded to Ottawa, or he's not really looking into the idea of going back to the Sens, he doesn't worry about it too much, who really knows? But it is intriguing how his response to this entire thing is, yeah, that's Canada, man. Like, they go out there and just spew out rumors and rumors because they've got a lot of airtime, but very few things to actually discuss. You could really see how the entire American lifestyle is changing his perspective, because back when he was the captain of Ottawa, he kind of needed to know how to handle these things, you know? Controversial comments and controversial ideas floating around with the Sens, trade rumors, speculation and all that stuff. He had to deal with that as the face of the franchise for 4 years. But ever since then, he gets traded over to San Jose. He's chilling out. He's in California. It's cool. It's a good time. Now he's in Pittsburgh. Media attention for their players is not the same in these areas of the world than it is in Ottawa, Ontario, Canada. Like, that's just kind of how it goes. And Erik Karlsson going out there and acknowledging that, I mean, yeah, he's not wrong per se, but I did find it pretty funny that he went out there and literally spoke about the rumors here. Let's go back over onto the subreddit and read some of the things that the comments are saying. This translated to, no effing way do I want to go back to Canada. Because you gotta remember, he does have himself his trade protection. I thought a player once waived his no trade, no move for a trade. It was automatically waived with his new team. Is that not the case? Dadonov. I like how it's supposed to be a slight, but having less things that need discussing is a dub in my books. Yeah, I think it's a slight and a dub at the same time. Pretty bang on. Kipper and Bourne have like 4-hour time slots and talk about maybe 5 topics. And yeah, that's kind of, you know, the status of radio in the Toronto scene. Pales in comparison to European soccer. Unsubstantiated rumors blowing up to gossy tabloid stories is Canadian sports. He wouldn't know. I mean, yeah, to be honest, he's not really wrong. And to be fair, the way in which it was brought up, the way in which we started talking about this, the Elliotte Friedman comments, it's all really just speculation. So at the end of the day, Erik Karlsson isn't really saying anything wrong here, but I did find it funny that he went out there and talked about the Canadian media in that way. So let me know your thoughts in the comment section below about Erik Karlsson, EK65, going out there and speaking out about the trade rumors to the Ottawa Senators. He's speaking out about the Friedman comments. He's speaking out about the Canadian media cycle. Is he wrong? Let me know your thoughts as to whether or not he is accurate in this assessment or not. They like to make up what-if scenarios, and that's just the way it is. They've got a lot of airtime, but very few things to actually discuss. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. I hope you enjoyed this video. And bye.